What if I told you that the most feared creature in Norse mythology wasn't a dragon, wasn't a giant, but a wolf who started as nothing more than a puppy? I've been digging into ancient Norse texts, and what I've found about Fenrir will completely change how you see loyalty, betrayal, and destiny. Because this isn't just a monster story, it's the darkest prophecy ever written. Here's what nobody tells you. Fenrir wasn't born evil. The gods of Asgard knew something terrible was coming. The prophecies whispered of Ragnarok, the end of everything, and at the center of it all was this wolf. But here's the crazy part. They decided to raise him themselves. Think about that for a second. You know your enemy is going to destroy you, so you bring him into your own home. Only one god was brave enough to get close to Fenrir. Tyr, the god of war and justice, would feed this growing wolf every single day, and Fenrir grew and grew until he became larger than houses, larger than mountains. The gods started to panic, but they couldn't just kill him. That would make them the villains in their own story. So they came up with something much more sinister. They decided to trick him. "Let's test your strength," they said, bringing out massive iron chains. Fenrir would snap them like twigs, and the gods would cheer and celebrate, pretending it was all just a game. But I couldn't believe this when I found it. The gods weren't celebrating his strength. They were studying his limits. When every chain they forged proved useless, they went to the dark elves, master craftsmen who dealt in impossible things. What they created wasn't made of metal or rope. It was crafted from the sound of a cat's footstep, the breath of a fish, the roots of a mountain. Things that shouldn't exist. They called it Gleipnir. It looked like a silk ribbon. When they brought this delicate-looking binding to Fenrir, something changed in his eyes. The wolf who had trusted them, who had played their games, suddenly understood what this really was. "If this is just another test," Fenrir growled, "then one of you puts your hand in my mouth. Show me this isn't a trap." The silence that followed must have been deafening. Nobody moved. Nobody volunteered. Until Tyr, the only god who had ever shown Fenrir kindness, stepped forward and placed his hand between those massive jaws. The moment Gleipnir touched Fenrir's fur, it became unbreakable. The wolf thrashed, pulled, fought with the strength of avalanches, but nothing worked. And when he realized he'd been betrayed by the only family he'd ever known, he bit down. Tyr's scream echoed across all 9 worlds as Fenrir devoured his hand whole. But that's just the beginning of this nightmare. They dragged the bound wolf to a wasteland, chained him to a boulder a mile underground, and jammed a sword between his jaws to keep them open. His saliva formed rivers. His howls shook the foundations of reality. And there he waited. For centuries, growing angrier, growing hungrier. The prophecies said that when Ragnarok finally came, Fenrir would break free. His jaws would stretch from the earth to the sky, and he would devour the world itself. But nobody talks about what really happened next. When the end times came, Fenrir didn't just destroy randomly. He hunted. He tracked down Odin, the All-Father, the King of Gods, the one who had orchestrated his imprisonment and swallowed him whole. The gods created their own destroyer. They turned loyalty into hatred, trust into vengeance, and a guardian into the very monster that ended their world. Here's what haunts me about this story. Fenrir's 2 sons, Skjöll and Hati, are still out there in Norse mythology, chasing the sun and moon across the sky every single day. When they finally catch them, that's when time itself ends. The gods didn't just doom themselves, they doomed everything. And that's just one piece of the puzzle. The rest is even stranger than you think.
Until next time.